Okay, so core principles of any kind of like mobility training. So there's two like main facets to mobility training. The first of those is the muscles themselves. So we have like all the individual muscles, and in a lot of the anatomy videos, it does show like all these muscles are these very self-contained tissues, which in fact they're really not. If you ever like look at a cadaver or something like that, what you'll see is muscles are surrounded by these bands of fascia, and a lot of these muscle fibers, they'll attach to these bands of fascia. So you'll have two muscles that are next to each other, you have the fascia between them, and all the muscle fibers will attach to the fascia and kind of in a way like one muscle group will be attached to another muscle group. So while there is a concept where the individual muscles themselves need to be flexible, you need to be able to lengthen them, and you can use principles of biomechanics to isolate certain muscles to improve mobility, we also have the concept where we do have to stretch out the fascia. And this is something where a lot of times if you isolate a limb, you may be able to achieve certain ranges of mobility, but then when you start involving other aspects of the body, if you're trying to improve some aspect of shoulder mobility, like overhead mobility, but then if we twist and rotate the lower body, if we like posteriorly rotate the pelvis, that has the tendency to stretch out all the fascia below the shoulder, and that can limit mobility as well. So there's two components to flexibility in terms of we have to increase the elasticity of all the fascia in the body as a whole, and we also want to address the mobility of the individual muscles themselves. Now in terms of the individual muscles, the best way to kind of improve mobility is we want to select exercises that target those individual muscle groups, and we force those muscles to express force at those extended joint ranges. So something like, hamstring flexibility, for example, we're going to be limited in terms of how much hamstring flexibility we can achieve if all we do is passive stretching of the hamstrings. Whereas in general, we want to be able to increase the length of the muscle itself, and we do this by, the muscle increasing, the sarcomere units within the muscle fiber. So in order to do this, a lot of times we start implementing a lot of more weighted isometric holds with something like a straight leg deadlift, and then as we get stronger at these longer joint ranges, we're going to see that through that process, we find that we can increase mobility that way. Generally speaking, we're going to reach the majority of the mobility gains that we're going to get by doing weighted versions of a lot of these stretches. And then oftentimes when we want to increase mobility above and beyond that, that's where we start seeing, okay, we're going to use a lot more like passive stretching, for example. For more like integrated movements where it's like a whole body type thing, that's where we kind of get into whole body stretches where we're trying to stretch out the different bands of fascia that are within the body. For a lot of stretches, it's important that like whenever we're doing a lot of more mobility focus or stretch kind of base protocols, isometrics work very well. Even partial repetitions at those longer ranges can also be very beneficial, but you're still shooting for, the important thing to notice, and like a lot of other training, is you're not trying to, with every single rep or every second, you're trying to reach as far as you can, and you're at the risk of injuring yourself or rupturing something because you're overstretching it. You kind of find some range you can comfortably maintain, and you're going to try to maintain that for 30 to 60 seconds or so. And then and this is kind of the benefit of using weight for a lot of these is once a muscle is starting to fatigue and you feel like your ability to control your body at those ranges of motion starts to diminish, then you end the stretch or you end the exercise. You rest for a couple minutes and you do it again. So when you look at a lot of these more mobility focused methods of exercise, that's kind of the way you want to approach with it is increase the strength and ability of the muscles to express force at these longer muscle lengths, and you're not trying to hit a personal record every time. You're taking a structured approach where you're training at these kind of intensities that allow you to maintain it for 30 to 60 seconds and then progress from there. You're not just trying to bounce into the deepest stretching you can every single time and you're going to tear something. So anyways, that's how you kind of approach mobility training, and we discuss it like mobility training in future videos, it's kind of going to be within that context.